Hello everyone. Welcome to this, I believe this is the 10th episode of my 2023 Natural Bodybuilding Competition Prep Series. I am now 22 weeks into the prep, and I'm about 14 weeks out from my first competition, which is on September 9th. 14 weeks isn't that far away. It's starting to creep closer and closer. At the end of the day, I started at about 36 weeks out, I believe, and 14 weeks doesn't sound like a big deal at all at least at this point. So yeah, we are definitely getting closer. This week has gone pretty well, so I'm going to update you on my progress and how I've been feeling, any changes that have occurred over the past week or so. But in short, things are still going great. They're going very well. In fact, they're still going the best they've ever gone in a prep that I've ever done. And again, this is my fourth time prepping. So what are some of the changes that I have felt over the past week compared to other weeks? So I'll kind of go through everything. Motivation levels, they're still very high. That's actually something that is actually creeping higher the closer I get to the competition. I'm starting to see more detail in my physique. I'm just getting more excited about the competition or the competitions because they are getting closer. And I'm just getting a lot of every time I kind of, well, not every time, but a lot of the time when like I take progress photos or practice my posing, I see a little bits of more detail each time, which is, I guess, very reaffirming that what we're doing is leading to progress. So that's very exciting and it's very motivating. As far as gym performance goes, it's still quite good. We are still very high. I am starting to feel a little bit of a shift at this point, little bit. And I have progressively been feeling it as I'd say over the past 4 to 6 weeks. Like the training is getting a little bit more difficult from one session to the next. And it should always be difficult. Like that's the nature of just training hard to build muscle. And in my case, to maintain muscle. So it should always be a challenge. It should always be kind of hard. But now it's like a different kind of a hard, one that just comes with getting leaner. There are some cases where I really have to fight to just maintain progress. The good news is on paper, I haven't fallen back on any progress yet. So I haven't lost any strength. I haven't lost any reps. I haven't lost any load. Like I haven't had to decrease load. And the idea is I try to maintain my strength and my performance for absolutely as long as I can before I get to the point of maybe I kind of regress a little bit. Just because, hey, at the end of the day, the leaner you get, the closer to essential body fat levels that you get, the more probable it is that the amount of force that your muscles in your body can produce is going to be a little bit lower. So things are going very well this far because we are managing at the very least to maintain everything across the board. And in many instances, we are still making progress, albeit slow progress, but progress nonetheless. So we're doing really good on the training front. As I get deeper, and I remember this in last preps, sometimes the training, like as far as mindset goes, gets kind of tough. It's like, you sit in the car, and I've experienced this before where like I'd sit in my car and I'd get a little bit of like, oh boy, here we go. It's gonna be a tough one. That might happen at some point, but it hasn't yet. I'm still very excited to jump into each of my training sessions. I'm not as energetic as I was, 22 weeks ago, that's for sure. But the motivation is still there. I'm still very excited. I still love training, and I'm still, again, maintaining progress across the board. And even I'm still progressing slowly for a lot of what I'm doing. So this is all good. Let's see what else. So energy levels. How has that been over the past week? So this is where I think that the biggest shift is starting to occur is overall energy levels. So what I've been finding, and it's becoming really apparent this week, or at least more apparent this week, but I have been feeling a little bit of a buildup in this over the past several. Energy levels are starting to get a little bit lower than maybe they were a month or 2 or 3 months ago. Now it's not terrible. It's just a little bit more fatigue and a little bit more sleepiness, drowsiness, maybe later in the day, and other parts kind of intermittently across different parts of the day. Sometimes it's tough to know if like the sleepiness and the fatigue is actually coming from the prep, or if it's something else, like maybe it's related to like having not a great sleep, or maybe it's because of like work stress. Sometimes it's hard for me to know for sure if like the fatigue or the lower energy is coming directly from being in prep and like losing body fat, or if it's coming from somewhere else. But I think just because we're looking at the general trend here over the past several weeks, like I'd say this week, it's probable that the slightly lower energy levels are probably associated with the prep. I definitely have work stress, as do many or most of us. And there are some nights where I don't get the best sleep in the world. And on those days, then it's usually the sleep that's responsible for the low energy. And maybe the lack of sleep, that on whatever night the sleep is a struggle, maybe that is from the prep. Not really sure. But you know what? Overall, we'll say the ever so progressively lower energy levels, probably from the prep, but still very manageable, right? Still very manageable. We're not at a place yet where it's getting too difficult to move around. Like I remember again in past preps, my last one was probably the worst for this, and I just paced it not very well. And I just too aggressive with it. Like I lost fat too fast, and then I just maintained my lean state for too long probably. But I remember there's like 3 months of the prep I did prior to this one where it was like I would fall asleep at my work chair at like 7 p.m. and like just have to drag myself up to like go to bed. And there's times where I'd like be working and I'd have to like drag myself up out of my chair just to go to the bathroom. If you're prepping now, or if you've prepped in the past, or maybe you can relate to this. But anyways, the good news is I am nowhere near that. Albeit, I will admit that like when 9:30 p.m. comes around, usually pretty tired, and then it does get a little bit more difficult to get up off the couch and go to the bedroom, go to sleep. But you know, at the end of the day, maybe that's just because it's nighttime. Maybe it's just because I'm tired. Maybe it's not necessarily because of the prep, but I'm sure that the prep has at least a little bit to do with it. But anyways, that's the biggest change I would say over the past week. It has been the energy levels kind of have been like going on a little bit of a linear downward trend, ups and downs, not the same every day, but that's probably, I think the prep is leading the energy a little bit lower. But again, very manageable. So still very grateful, still feeling good overall. But it is worth noting that, and I'm actually going to get into a little bit more detail on the energy levels, because I think this is something that's really important, and I'm learning this more and more as I get deeper into the prep. And that is how the prep, even though it's my prep, I'm competing, I'm like losing my body fat, and I'm trying to maintain and build muscle at the beginning, probably just maintaining muscle now at this point. It sounds like when you just hear about like what a prep is, it sounds like very much a solo sport. Like it's just me, I'm prepping. It's just my gig. But the more I get into it, the more I realize that it is not at all a solo sport. So mainly, it affects literally everyone that I'm around. And I'm realizing this more and more and the deeper I get into this. So, and this is one of the reasons why I signed up with Jeff Alberts to help coach me, because he is very good at helping me with this in particular. And I think this is really important. It's making sure that the prep isn't something that consumes me and negatively impacts everyone around me. So for example, I'm starting to feel like lower energy levels. Me having lower energy levels affects the people that's around me, especially if they're used to my normal non-prepping version of me, of Sam. So they're just as much in the prep as I am, because they are, so my fiance is living with me. So she experiences at times like a lower energy version of me. So, you know, I'm not always the same as I am when I am doing what do you call it? Like I'm in an off season. I'm not prepping. So the more I get into this, the more I realize how important it is to, despite having low energy levels, to maintain balance. So the lack of energy or the dwindling energy levels, like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, but it's up to me to make sure that I'm balancing myself as best as I can with everyone else who is around me. And I don't start, being a poop head to be around, that's for sure. So I'm feeling the importance of that this week, probably. And I've known that this is something I need to work on. I've always, even going into the prep again, that's like one of the reasons why I'm working with Jeff, because he's a master at like putting things into perspective and helping to like guide me through that. But yeah, that's like one of the focuses for me, is to bring balance into, and not get too prep focused, and not to get too selfish. Because again, like, prep is so selfish. It's like I'm literally doing this just for me. But that affects literally everyone that's around me. So I have to do this with keeping balance in mind, and not let the prep itself consume everything, right? Because prep is just one part of life. It just is one part of life. It's not. It is not. In my opinion, it shouldn't be the sole. Like, the spotlight should not be on it. There's other things that are more important, like completely upfront, flat out. And it's so long too, right? Like, so I'm going to be prepping for a total of, I think it's like 48 weeks by the time I'm done the whole thing. So if I went into it with the mindset of, all right, these next 48 weeks, it's like all about prep. Like, it's all about prep time. Like, that is the focus. It's almost like I would be writing off those 48 weeks, right? Like, there's so many things that I would be completely missing out on if I just wrote it off. 48 weeks of like, this is prep year, like, that's it. And what I'm learning is, what I'm finding and I'm discovering for myself too, is like, got to make sure that doesn't happen. Like, prep is there, but it should, for the most part, be in the background of life. It's not like everything should be, I don't think everything should be revolving around it. And also too, it makes the prep easier, and not just for me, but for everyone. It is, and I think that's something that we're being successful with for the most part. Like, it's always an ongoing kind of a project, I suppose, is keeping all of that in mind. But I think this is the best I've ever done at a prep with that. And again, I'm definitely not perfect, and again, it's an ongoing project, and it's going to continue to be, because I've got probably the toughest part left to go. The toughest part of the fat loss is going to be like the really nasty parts of fat loss, which I still have yet to come. So it's important now that I start practicing this stuff at this point, so that I carry on that mindset as I get deeper into prep. So that's kind of the big project, and the big bit of reflection and revelation, even as I get into this part of prep, and I'm experiencing lower energy levels, is that I need, like, it's my job to put balance into my life, because it's not just about me, it's about everyone that's around me. So my fiance, for example, the main example. So I need to make sure that this is a part of balance of life, and not, it is everything, right? It is not everything. So that's that's the big project. But you know what? I think this is the best I have ever done at managing it. Keep working on it. I think that my physique, to be perfectly honest, is the best it's ever looked in a prep before. So I'm ecstatic about that. I think that a big part of that reason is because I am working to maintain balance, and my energy, or I should say my mindset, is in the right place. My stress is managed much better. And I think the reflection of that is a healthier, fuller, leaner physique, better developed physique. And I think that we're going to a really cool place for the competitions. I'm very excited, very motivated. And I'm also, again, I think it's worth mentioning, I'm very grateful for the people that I have around me too. So my fiance, she's a rock in this prep for me, like 100%, like an absolute rock. So very grateful for her. I'm very lucky. And then Jeff too, like he is probably the perfect coach for me. Like just my personality, my struggles, my tendencies in past preps to let the prep consume me and be hyper focused and push too hard. And he puts things into much better perspective and helps to pace things much better. So huge shout out to those two. Anyways, I hope you guys got something out of this. Thank you again so much for watching. If you'd like, go ahead and watch my other videos. Subscribe to the channel, like the video if you'd like. Leave a comment if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm excited to continue sharing my journey with you. Next week, I'm going to share some progress photos, so keep watching for those. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.